warming up my hands. It's a cold day outside, but it's not cold here in the Voodoo Garden. I just got through with my chores. First thing in the morning, slug down a couple cups of coffee. Then I'm human. Then I can go out, feed the menagerie outside, and hi there, how you doing? Tickling my neck. But I go out, feed everybody, water, and make sure everybody's okay and safe and happy. Then I come inside. Then it's my time. I come into the Voodoo Garden, I warm up, my fingers thaw out, and breathe in the green, because it's always summer in the Voodoo Garden. And that's what I like about the Voodoo Garden. Hey, oh, by the way, welcome to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I am the host of this green menagerie of nonsense I lovingly call the Garden of Voo. I was going to show you this last episode, and I forgot. This, look at this. Do you know what this is? Come on, you know what it is. Those of you who tune in regularly, you probably remember this weird little three-headed plant of mine. It wasn't doing so good. So it kind of went off to the sidelines. Actually, it left the Voodoo Garden. And that's usually a bozo no-no for me. But this is, by the way, this is an avocado tree. Yes, it is. Oddly enough, this is an avocado tree. It doesn't look like a lot of avocado trees because, of course, Ray lopped the little heads off like he's known to do. You got to keep me away from scissors. Ray, put them down. Step away from the scissors. No, this is an avocado tree. I've been growing this for over a year now. Yes, a year, and it's only this big. Well, I've always had problems with avocado trees. I mentioned this so many times. I even wrote about it in my book. My grandmother, she always had an avocado tree growing in her house. She didn't have a lot of light, and it was growing behind the refrigerator, well, on the side of the refrigerator away from the window. I don't know how that thing ever grew, but it was just one of those things. Grandma always had an avocado tree. It was tied up, trussed up, and there was nothing but a stem and some leaves at the top, but she always had it there, as long as I can remember, for years and years and years. Anyway, I always wanted to grow an avocado tree because it reminds me of my grandmother. And so I've tried, I failed, I try, I fail. I don't know. The order of that basically always ends up in fail. Well, I figured it out. I finally figured it out. People are always asking me questions, and that's good. That's the nature of this program. Ask me questions. I'll see if I can help you with your indoor gardening. One thing I've always been unable to do is advise people on avocados, because I grow them, they sprout out of the seed, and they grow for a while. They have beautiful leaves, and a lot of you have had this thing. And then what happens is the leaves start turning brown on the edges, and then it just starts fading away, and eventually you got a stick. That's it. That's the end of the avocado. It doesn't last that long. Well, for me, okay, I'm going to tell you what I did to get some success with this. Maybe this will help you. It turns out with mine, I've grown them in potting soil. I've grown them in coir with compost. I've grown them in a variety of mixes. Always ends up with the same result. Stick. To be specific, dead stick. Well, this time I figured it out. I mentioned that I have water issues coming out of my well. The water is really alkaline. Well, I have that distiller that I mentioned. I've been distilling the water to make sure that it is the low on the pH scale, more towards acidic than alkaline, a little bit down from middle. Well, I've been using that in this pot. Now this plant was fading away. So what I did was I clipped, well actually come on over here and I'll show you as I explain. It's actually a lot funner when you see what I've done while I talk about it than just listening to me do this, okay? Check this out. Pardon all the green matter down there. I throw little bits of dead stuff onto the soil because I have an army down there. They're called soil mites, hypoaspis mites. They eat fungus gnat larvae. You can't see them because they're so itty-bitty you'd need a magnifying glass to see them walking around. They don't bite, they don't harm anything. They eat dead organic matter in the soil when there's no fungus gnat larvae to eat. But while there's fungus gnat larvae, they'll dig down up to an inch or so and eat the little babies. It's wonderful stuff. But back to the plant. Well, anyway, that's why I throw the dead stuff on there. As it decomposes, those mites will eat it, and it helps keep them fed. Well, we got this nice green stem. Beautiful green stem. It looks really good, but then it dead-ended up here. This is where I chopped the head off. And you can do this to your avocado trees if you want them to bush out. Yeah, just like any other plant, they'll respond to that. Here's where I cut it off, and then it grew 3 more. And they went kind of weird and wonky and off to the side. It looks almost like a Dr. Seuss tree. And that's because it was weak. This is what happens when they're weak. The stems are kind of weak, but they get these big, beautiful, heavy leaves. and it pulls that down. Well, this tree wasn't doing so good because like all my other avocado trees, it was starting to have issues like this. And this is just the beginning stage, and then it gets worse and worse. You've seen that happen? Yeah. Well, that was, I had no idea what it was. It turns out it was because my water was bad. It was too high in alkaline. Yeah, the pH was too high. So what I was going to do is I was just going to take this upstairs, put it by a window, and watch it slowly die because I couldn't look at it every day in the Voodoo Garden. I changed the water, and the plant changed its pattern. It stopped dying, and look, it's perfectly healthy on the upper leaves. A little bit of chlorosis down here, back from the old days. But look, the new leaves have that dark avocado green. Yeah, avocado green. Beautiful. New stuff coming out. Perfect. We slide on over here. We have the exact same thing. As it gets old, the leaves are newer, you can see they're darker. And they're coming out beautifully. Even in the little one that's putting out leaves as well. Now, I can never straighten these stems out. I could try, but I really don't want to. I kind of like this wabi-sabi type of look to it. Yeah, it's nice. So I brought it back down to the Voodoo Garden, and I'm giving it that water, and it's doing perfectly. So if you have issues with your avocado, maybe you might want to check the pH as a last-ditch effort, because I've tried everything. The only thing I didn't look at was the pH. Yeah. It's actually getting kind of tall. Look at this. Waist level. Not so bad. From a free seed that I get from avocados. I eat a lot of avocados. I really do. I love the flavor, the texture. I make the best guacamole on the planet. I really do. And so I'm buying avocados all the time, eating them. I'm always throwing the seeds away because, I mean, I can't grow all of them. I mean, or can I? No, I can't, because where would I put them? I made that mistake. Actually, it wasn't a mistake. It was a pleasant error. I bought a cocoa pod. Remember that? A cacao pod? Well, I bought it from Puerto Rico. And that's where, you know, what they make chocolate out of. Well, I bought a pod fresh off a tree. Remember that? A long, long time ago? Yeah, I bought it. I took the seeds out. I planted them all. They were all viable. And that's the weird thing. Every single seed in that pod grew. And I didn't expect that. I bought the whole pod. I thought, well, maybe one or two I'm going to go. No. All of them grew. And this is back when I lived on the 80 acres, you know, a long time ago. So I had trees all over my house. Cocoa trees all over my house. Well, they eventually ended up passing away here and there from whatever errors I make. One of them fell off and crashed on the ground. Also, temperatures for those things were really bad. And then when I got here, the last one finally passed away. And I think it had to do with the chill that it went through when it was being transported. And that's really too bad. Anyway, I don't know why I even started mentioning that. This is the avocado, and I'm really glad that it's back here in the Voodoo Garden. They really don't take any care at all. I haven't been doing squat to this thing except giving it water. You don't have to clean the leaves. You don't have to repot or anything. They'll grow in smaller pots as long as you feed them, and I use the compost tea. So for those of you who have issues with your avocado, take heart. If I can grow it, anybody can grow it. I know you hear that a lot, but trust me, I am better than you at killing avocado plants, and I managed to grow one. Oh. And another thing. Somebody asked me, don't remember her name, but she did ask me on one of the programs. I don't do a Q&A here that often. I usually answer in the comment section, but I wanted to demo this because more than one person asked it. She said, Ray, how do you keep the leaves shiny and healthy on your plants? Do you clean them, and could you show me how to do it? Well, I couldn't show in the comment section. So you know what? I'm going to do a rare demo here on what I do with the leaves. And I don't do this that often because normally it's not dusty in here. It's a sealed room. But I mentioned on a previous program that I had spore issues. Remember the mushrooms? Yeah. Well, the mushrooms have been putting out spores all over the place. So I have spore dust everywhere. And I know I'm going to be having those yellow mushrooms soon. Just I need to keep the dust off the plants, because it's not that it's hurting the leaves. It's just that I don't know, maybe a little vanity. I want my leaves to look shiny and healthy. Yet I don't like the product. It's called Leaf Shine. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah, you see it in the garden centers. Spray it on your leaves, shine them up. Well, sometimes that's made out of neem oil, which is okay. It kills bugs, but you don't need any kind of polish to polish your leaves. They naturally have a glow that you don't. It's like you don't need to put lipstick on in order to have a beautiful mouth. You really don't. Okay, people look beautiful the way that they are. I don't believe, that's just my personal opinion. I don't believe they need all of that fluff to look beautiful. You are beautiful the way that you are. And the way the plants are, I think they're beautiful in their natural state. So I'll never use leaf shine on my plants. I'm going to show you, come on over here. You can sit right next to me. We can share a stool. Yes, we can. And I'm going to show you how I keep my plants looking their best naturally. The closer you get to this, the better it looks. This is the one that I've had for well over a year. It's called Prince of Orange. And I think the reason it had that name is that the new leaves come out like a reddish color, then they turn orange, and then they turn green. And they have the most beautiful green. The older they get, the more emerald the green is. This is a beautiful philodendron, and it will climb up a pole and fill up a corner nicely. Well, you can see one of the leaves. This is what I'm talking about. See how it looks a little bit dusty? Yeah, that's from the fungus spores, from the mushrooms. Yeah, but you can get this in any house, like when you're vacuuming, you're dusting. You'll get dust, or if you have a window open, you'll get dust on your leaves. All you have to do is take a soft cloth, any soft cloth. You can use a paper towel, but paper towels tend to break apart, and then you're throwing away a whole bunch of paper towels. You don't need that. Just use any soft cloth, moisten it, squeeze the water out, and then just back the leaf with your hand. This works with all sturdy leaves. Put your hand behind the leaf, take your cloth, and put your finger into it, and just gently wipe it. Kind of like if you had a child and they were a little bit fussy and sensitive and you want to wipe their face. I know I put it in weird terms, but I think that helps people. Just as gentle as you can, kind of like if you were wiping your eyelid while it was closed. You don't want to press any harder than that, because if you do, it could rip the leaf. And also back here, it's best to just throw the towel over your arm. That way it doesn't rake on the leaf and sometimes rip them. Go like this. Gently wipe it off. Now when it's moist, it's going to look clean, and that's because it's moist. Now when it dries, it may get that dusty look again. So go to the other side of the towel with a dry towel. Gently give it a wipe. This takes off the moisture and it buffs it up. That's the important thing. These are for large leaf plants. You're not going to do this with a small leaf plant because you don't have all that time. Or do you? I do have all that time. I sit here and this is therapy for me. Look at this. The leaf is now dry. I've moistened it. I've dried it. I want you to look at the difference here between this leaf right here is relatively clean, but it wasn't buffed. This one is clean and buffed. Look at the difference. Yeah, and there is a difference. I'm going to tilt your head up just a tad. Hold on. All right. I'm going to move it a little bit closer. Don't worry, the plant won't break. Now we're going to go for one of the redder leaves. These are one of the newer leaves. Newer leaves are generally a little bit more delicate. You just have to be a little bit more careful. And we do the same process. When you have smaller leaves, like on a ZZ plant or a vining philodendron, you can wipe the leaves and just go quickly on them because they're not as thick and brittle as these larger leaf plants, and they won't break as easily. So the larger leaf plants you just have to take a little bit more time with, but it sure is worth it too. When somebody walks into your house, a friend or family member walks into your house and compliments you on your plant, it's worth every single moment that you took to give that plant a little extra care. And also, when you take off the dust from the leaf, it can breathe a lot easier. When the dust cakes on there, if you're a smoker, or if you have your windows open, there's a lot of dust on there. Out in nature, we have rain, we have wind. That's going to keep the leaves relatively clean. Inside, we don't have that. So we have to step in to help our plants along. There's no need to wipe down the underside of the leaf, only the top of the leaf. This helps them breathe, helps them get a little bit more light, and it also makes them look better. Now, of course, there are certain plants that you never clean off, and this is one of them. This is the purple passion or cascading velvet, also known as Gainura. This is a beauty on its own. And the reason it's beautiful is because it has fuzz. And it feels fuzzy too. It feels really cool. I love it. It feels like velvet. And these plants don't need to be wiped off. They grow really quick. They don't, even though they may get dust on them, it doesn't look like they're dusty, does it? This is in the same environment as every other plant, and we're not having any issues. You know what's nice about this? I mentioned how I pruned it back. Yep. See how I'm pruning it back? And it's growing all of these new growths. They go all over the place. This is only, I think, three little clippings that I took off of the mother plant. And look at how it's starting to bush out. And it's going to start vining down. I wanted to make sure I clipped it first to make sure it got a lot of these shoots before I let it vine down. That way I'm not cutting all the vines after they've already taken all that effort and gone down. Now I have about, I don't know, a dozen to a dozen and a half that are going to be vining over instead of the original 3. Now I'm going to show you if we can go back in time. This is what it looked like back when I first planted the 3 clippings. These clippings here are off of that plant that we just saw. Yeah, see the fungus nets? Yeah. Don't mind them. Don't look at the fungus nets. Well, this is what it looked like, just 3 clippings. This plant will have the same future as that other plant. I'm going to cut it back, clip it, and it's going to bush out and vine. Now I'm also going to transplant it probably into a bigger pot. I just started it in a small pot because I didn't have that much potting soil available. And while I got you up here, take a look at this. See all the different little spider plants in here? Let me take it down here. Spider plants are something that people love to grow. Some people have problems with them. I don't. And that's because I just throw them in the pot, water them, allow them to dry, then water them again. People tend to overwater these too much. They're a grass. They do not like to be overwatered or over cared for. But doesn't it look like there's a whole bunch of them in there? Yeah. I think there's about maybe a dozen in there. You know what? Started out as 1. Only 1 plant. And we're going to swing over nice and easy so as you don't get all goobly. Hey, look. Sweet potato. Yeah, it's vining down. Okay, well, that's not what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you its sister or brother. Same exact thing. These were just 2 little spider babies. And look, the spider babies already have a whole family of their own. Look at how many we got here. And now, I've mentioned this before, but I'll give you a really quick look so that you can take heart. When you have the little babies coming down, look right here at the base of them. If you can see these little roots, they're ready. You can clip it off, push it into dirt just to the top of these roots, no further, and then moisten it, let it go, and they'll begin to grow. They look kind of wimpy here, but they're just surviving off of the plant, and the plant only gives them enough energy to start putting out these roots. They're not supposed to be putting out a ton of leaves because that's not the purpose of the mother plant. The mother plant gives them the energy to have just a couple leaves and to start putting down roots until they can find soil and grow on their own, and then the stem will eventually die. What I did was, this is what happened. Off of these baby plants, I took those babies that I just showed you, and this is the result. After just about a month or so, this is how big they get. They take root. Yep. And they multiply. One little baby will put out more and more on the side until eventually it looks like this. This was one baby. Now the one in the pot to the right over here, that's about 4 or 5 because that's destined to be a larger plant. Now that it's taken root, you can tell that it's taken root because the babies have gotten bigger and the color is very vivid. What I'm going to do is transplant it into a larger pot and eventually make a larger plant. These ones over here are destined to be small plants. I like some small and some large. See, you can grow small, you can grow large. It all depends on what you want to do, the pot size, the type of plant. Different plants can do different things depending on how you do them, and also it starts out with just a little good care. You know, when you're standing over here in the Voodoo Garden, if you turn your eyes to the right, which you don't normally do, you're usually focused on me and I don't know why, but if you turn your eyes over to the right, look, on this table. Is that a balancing act or what? Yeah, this, the pillars of new growth coming out, I have to do this because I can't raise and lower the lights because some plants are up closer to the light, like the papaya. It has, if I lowered the light, it would hit the papaya. So I can't do that. I have to raise the plants. Different plants are at different stages, so I have to raise the plants to the lights instead of lowering the lights to the plants. And then as the plant gets taller, I'll take a pot out, move it down, take another pot out, move it down until finally it's table level. Well, these plants are the ones that I mentioned that I was going to plant for my indoor garden. Remember I said I was going to grow vegetables inside? Well, these are the starts. And as much as I want to show you right now, you know what? Let's hold off until the next time you come to visit, because then I think I'll have a little bit more to show you, and I think it's well worth the wait. It's kind of weird. It looks like Stonehenge over there. Actually, it's more like Easter Island. I got these little statue things all balanced just perfectly over there. Don't anybody breathe. Don't anybody move. Everybody's going to be just fine. Eventually, they'll be down off their pots and they'll be growing normally. Now, some things are going to do good, some things aren't going to do good. See, I have limitations in here. You know I do. I have no windows. I rely 100% on the amount of light that I can get out of these fixtures here. And some of you have windows, and bless you, you got windows. You have an advantage over me. Now, when we're growing stuff inside, we have to recognize that we do have limitations. This isn't outdoor gardening. This is not optimum anything. Our soil is not optimum outdoor soil. It's potting soil, which is never going to be as good as nature's soil. But we do the very best we can. With me, I make compost tea and I feed them the compost tea, and that helps level out the playing field. So it gives them the nutrition that they would get outside while they're inside. As far as the lights, I give them the very brightest that I can afford. Not the brightest that there is, but the brightest I can afford. I work within my means and I accept my limitations. This pepper plant over here would be a lot healthier if it were growing in full sunlight. It's never going to be growing in full sunlight here in the Voodoo Garden because it just can't. So I have to do the very best I can with what I have to work with. That's why, I'm getting back to something, that's why I mentioned clean the leaves. The clean leaf will help the plant do a little bit better than a dirty plant inside. So that's one thing you can do. Using a good mild fertilizer is the next thing that you can do. You can use artificial fertilizers like Miracle-Gro and stuff, but what those things do, and they're not bad, but what they do is they have an end road, a roadblock that comes up. They basically bypass the soil and feed your plants directly, yet they leave salts behind, fertilizer salts, and those build up in the soil because the moisture may evaporate and go into your plant, but they leave residuals in the soil, and eventually that poisons the soil. So there's more things working against your plant, and you got to feed it more and more, and eventually that leads to a downward spiral on some plants. Not all plants, but sometimes you'll notice your plants are just going to heck in a handbag and you don't know why. You're still doing the same exact thing you did before. That's why. That's why I use compost tea. If you can get a bag of compost or composted manure or some kind of organic fertilizer, that doesn't bypass the soil. It feeds the soil, that feeds the plants. You know, I've said that before. I've done it on my outdoor garden. That's another way that we can level the playing field inside. As far as light, do the best that you can. I know that we can't all afford real expensive grow light fixtures. I can't. Mine seem kind of bright, but compared to outside, not so bright. Those little seedlings you saw up there on the Easter Island thing, those would not have to be specially prepared and pushed up to the light. If they were outside, they'd just be growing naturally with no sweat involved. Inside, So we're working with the odds against us. But we can hedge our bets by watering correctly, feeding correctly, keeping our plants as healthy as possible by a little extra care. That's what we do here in the Voodoo Garden. If you have any questions, ooh, don't forget, tune in next time. I got some updates on the stuff that I'm growing inside that and the one behind you. I'm not even going to mention its name. I'm going to bring those out. I'm going to show you what's going on with our veggie garden here in the Voodoo Garden. Until next time, this is Ray and his little friends. We're out of here. Oh yeah, I was going to mention, if you have any questions, post it in the comment section below. One of us in here will get back to you. Take care, everybody.